Hey everybody, welcome back. It's GLEC Day here at BW,
It's
so
game day here at BW.
yeah, so we've been here for a while. We're doing Overwatch now. It's our GLEC Overwatch team coming out here. They're gonna be facing off against St. Xavier University. We got our
We have our
scoreboard
updated scoreboard
back
over there.
here because we forgot to make a graphic to go on the stream. So we're using the whiteboard, and I like this bit too much to let it die. Um, so obviously BW, coming off of a pretty big loss last week to Bethel, I think
Manchester.
Manchester. I
Yep.
think it was one of the two. So looking towards this week, looking towards that adaptation, is there anything that you distinctly remember from last week that you really want to see brought over?
So what I remember from last week, they did a lot of good. There was a lot of good when they were grouped together. I remember we talked about there being flashes, but then there would be plays where like somebody could overextend just a bit and then get those extras, and then like nobody I, f- I don't want to say nobody. I would say like there wasn't enough of an effort of like, okay, how much can I overextend? Let me play with the waters. But I think a big thing coming into this is that now DeBoss Baby is back. He wasn't there last week, and I feel like that loss was bigger than probably BW realized. And now he's not sick anymore.
Hmm.
Thank God. Um, and other than that, just like it's going to be a great what's it called? This is going to be a great game because like now this is BW at I would say full strength. Plastic T and the Boss Babies both co-captains. Not only co-captains but like most likely will be playing the supporting roles, and they could keep a team alive for a very long time. Um, Duke Nukem and Clabito, the twins. Once they start getting things rolling, we've seen things even in Nace leagues with Clabito just saying I know a spot, and then the whole tides of the match just turns around.
Hmm.
And Ripley on Reaper is always something that's that's Ripley's character.
Yep.
That's their character,
Yes.
and they definitely have has pushed that character as much as they could go. Um, on the other side, though, for Muskingum, I mean, not for
Not
Muskingum,
Muskingum.
for Saint Xavier, they beat Muskingum 3-0. And so from anything, so from writing off of that, this team is 1-0 compared to BW's 0-1.
Hmm.
What is the main thing that you want to see BW improve, either improve on, or what? How do you want them to adjust their game plan from last week?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is like it's a lot of the stuff that you said before. It's more of the understanding of team play versus individual playmaking and being able to mix the two incredibly well. We um like as we saw a lot with last week, there were glimpses of both, glimpses of incredibly good team play and incredibly good single play, but there wasn't a lot of the in between. There wasn't a lot of the blend of the two actually coming together, actually like getting both those pieces to really work in tandem. So what I would love to see, especially with another week of practice, another week of all the players getting used to each other's comms, how the comms are going to be flowing, how the playstyles are going to be flowing, getting used to what all of that is going to culminate in, and getting used to how all of that is going to come together to create a proper game plan.
Not only that, but also VOD review. As much as we want to talk about like them changing their game plan, they were the one that studied their own film.
Hmm.
They're probably in that room a bit too long, or probably studied on the loss a bit too long. But either way, yeah, these we could be as quote unquote harsh of critics as we want, but their harshest critics are each other and themselves,
Hmm.
and they know what to do, and also they could be their biggest supporters as a team because like you could see somebody make a mistake and be like, "Hey, this happened, but also this happened, and we did great there, and we need to do more of this and not that,"
Yeah, it's kind of like the stuff that we were talking about earlier. If you were here for our Smash broadcast, it's
which you
that
should have.
yes, it's the individual adaptation. It's a lot of that that we were discussing. A lot of that comes down to not necessarily just VOD review, but in the moment, understanding what is necessary and what is, uh, what do you call the word? What is necessary, but and also what is good for the team in a sense of all that. So. really it's breaking down kind of how the team is going to flow and how the team is going to like develop as a full team. And another week of practice, again, as we were talking about last week, they were coming into this on a relatively short time scale. They needed to roll that back really fast. Now that they've been given a little bit more time to breathe, a little bit more time to figure out who everybody is going to be playing, and especially with their full roster here, I would expect to see some better things. I would expect to see some maybe more explosive gameplay, some maybe more rallying together, because I know Plastic Key and DeBoss Baby from my experience with them before. I know they have the capabilities to lead a team essentially from no matter where they are in the pack, whether they're taking up that front line or they're playing more in the back or somewhere in the middle. They can work it, whatever they may end up doing.
Yeah, and it looks like they're working it over to Lijiang Tower right now as we are getting everything ready. With the first one being Control, I believe,
Yes.
and once again, BW's lineup. The Boss Baby and Plastic Team most likely on supports. Duke Nukem on tank and Spooky Ripley and Clabido on DPS. So the usual suspects and their usual positions. Um,
Yeah. And what I will say here, coming out for this, little bit unexpected as far as a lineup goes, if I'm talking about the entirety. Obviously, as we were talking about the Plastic Teen Boss Baby. Yeah, is it not really? What? Hmm. With obviously with Plastic Teen and Boss Baby, I've seen them on both these roles before. The Sojourn from Spooky Ripley and the Hazard from Duke Nukem, I have not seen. Hazard also being an incredibly new character.
yeah,
So,
that was going to be the thing that I was going to immediately point out. The Ripley on Sojourn. I thought it was going to be hard on Reaper, but mixing it up, it's early in the season. You definitely have time to.
yep. Experimentation is always going to give you some sort of benefit no matter what you try for. And really looking to see if a new kind of approach to your game plan, seeing if that is actually going to work in your favor, is always going to be something that you want to find out, especially when you're at the mercy of very early seasons. You still have a lot of time to fully develop whatever your pool may be, and before you really need to look towards uh, are land dreams still within play?
Yeah, and I think one of the early things that we saw or that we see already that was different from last week. Duke Nukem went down, and the team didn't immediately try to push in, and then everything fell apart.
Yep.
It was just like, okay, let's stay back, let's wait for him to regroup, and then now they're on point. They did lose three, including both of their supports, so I don't think they're Duke Nukem might not make this one out alive, which he
Nope.
doesn't, but already
Yeah.
was able to get on point, was able to get a really early contest compared to last time where it was like 60, 70% before they even saw the point.
Yeah, what could have been, what I'm seeing there is a little bit of development, especially when we're talking about things like the team being all on the same page when they go for sort of a push play. There was actually a large portion of their team pushing onto the point at the same time. They had all set for that movement to happen. Obviously, the side of Timbo, who's getting taken down by the Boss Baby, posed a little bit of a threat. So that potentially could be very good news, especially with the Kitsune Rush coming out here. Plastic T able to get the first pick onto the Lucio, and Duke Nukem essentially just taking up that front line to Boss Baby dropping, but almost instantly getting traded out by Duke Nukem as he's able to push the enemy hazard incredibly far back. And that's going to be point taken here for BW. So now, with them playing more on that defense, less on that offense, something that we really didn't get to see a lot of last week, I'd be interested to see what exactly they're going to be looking for as it comes to this defensive play.
Yeah, I was going to say Duke Nukem really took control out of that one and was just like, you know what, I'm tired of looking at this back line. Everyone's a bit too healthy. Let me just do it myself. And now they're dealing with Bob and the Hazard ult, which takes out most, if not everyone, which it does. That's going to be a team wipe. But BW is going to have a couple more chances. Only 65 currently for St. Xavier.
Yep. That's I was gonna say one of the things that I would potentially look forward to, especially when we're talking about the varsity teams of past and other teams that have come through the BW program. One of the biggest things, especially just with Overwatch in general, actually, one of the biggest things that's important for playing controls incredibly well is going to be not necessarily just playing on top of that point, being able to actually push forward and contest that space, giving yourself the space to move back. Plastic T, unfortunately, dropping there to the condensed fire of the enemy squad. But it looks like the rest of the team is going to be looking for this, especially with the Juno ult coming out. But it's not looking like it's going to draw much else. DeBoss Baby, Spooky Ripley, and Klebito all dropping, and Duke Nukem popping the ult and a little bit of desperation, but unfortunately only going to be able to find one with the assist from Plastic T. And map one, an improvement.
Yep, not that bad. Like 37%. No, it's not a cap, but it's improvement. Like
Hmm.
there was a lot more of team gameplay. There was a lot more of adjustments. There was even the extensions that we were talking about of especially Duke Nukem. He really found he found his plays one of the times of just like, all right, I'm gonna do what I want to, and everyone's going to deal with it, whether
Yep.
they like it or not.
Yeah. And looking towards this game, the swap over of Speaker Ripley now onto the Soldier. Obviously, Sojourn has that hit scan element, but her main gun is still going to be projectile. So moving it more to a pure hit scan, I'm interested to see how that's going to affect not only Ripley's gameplay, but also the rest of the team, kind of having the ability to have more consistent long range damage as opposed to kind of more sporadic big damage at those longer ranges.
I'm also really curious with Spooky Ripley on hit scan how the team is going to deal with the echo specifically of the high ground because um, Junkrat very notoriously struggles with characters that can get above him, and Echo doesn't like the ground.
Mhm.
So it's going to be like kind of a 1v1 for DPS, and it's like, okay, how are you going to do it? How are you going to help your team?
Yeah, how are we going to play around that? As I say, we've got Ripley swapping back over to this Sojourn pick. So, as I say, whether the Soldier they felt that maybe they just weren't getting the value that they needed out of it, or if the team feels that the Soj is going to get them more value, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, we don't exist within their comms. However, it is the swap that's going to be made. So, looking towards this first push, it's going to be seeing how are those Sojourn abilities and that Sojourn damage really going to play into, you know, getting openings within this team. Klebito able to get this opening pick onto the enemy Sojourn. However, trades will come back, getting the Boss Baby out. Duke Nukem really up close with the assist from Spooky Ripley, gets that finishing pick. And now the Kiriko might pose a little bit of a threat, especially with the hazard now in point, as we see all of that coming back. Not quite a squad wipe, but
Yeah,
very close to it.
it was so close for a cap. They had it just right there and just barely not enough. Kind of what we saw of last week of the team doing really well and then for one reason or another the supports on the other side just stalling for just that much amount of time and that making the difference between a capture and not.
Yeah, pretty much. I say, and now the Echo coming out from the enemy side, trying to go for some heavy dives, will eventually get picked off, but that's after three of BW's side will go down. Duke Nukem being the fourth to fall, and Ripley just sort of sitting in spawn, doing what they can, but it's gonna have to be a wait for a full regroup and try to get some kind of final push here going. With 15 left on the clock, it's gonna need to be BW getting some sort of touch.
I think he knows a place.
Yep.
Oh, he knows a place. He's got one. Klobito with the Riptire ult.
Yep. Riptire able to get one, and that looks like it's going to be the opening that BW ends up needing. The Sojourn ult here is going to be doing a little bit of damage. However, BW is actually able to pick the capture up, and the Hazard ult coming out as well. Not quite going to be able to cancel the Lucio ult, but it is going to be able to provide a little bit more stall. Fortunately, the counter Hazard ult is looking like it's going to clean that up, and unless Clapito can get some sort of final touch here, it is looking like, and it will be game one here for St. Xavier University, a 2-0 win on the control. However, much like we talked about earlier, and much like we will talk about pretty much all day, as it's very important, improvement across the board from BW, being able to consistently get onto those control points and being able to consistently contest that is something that we weren't seeing a lot of last week. And I would argue that that's going to come a lot more, especially due to the improvement in overall comms that you get from the addition of DeBoss Baby. He was one of the most vocal players, especially back when I was in academy, and he's taken up a lot of that mantle coming into varsity last semester. So coming into this, he's going to keep that trend rolling.
Yeah, and also like once again, I know we said it last week on comms. Like he is, I just keep getting flashbacks of Nace playoffs when they won that and he popped off. Like he will
Mhm,
not only will he wear his emotions on its sleeves when it matters, but also just like he will let it be known who he is going after. He will communicate, which
mhm.
was obviously we weren't in the comms, but we felt like wasn't the biggest strengths that BW has had last week, and already huge improvement this week, and that's just because of a slight roster change. Let alone w- when they actually play together more, when they have more experience, once
Mhm.
again of just being with each other, not let alone be going against another team.
Yes. I was going to say, the scrims in this department are where things are going to really help you develop the most. And I know I was able to talk to some of the players, and I was able to talk to some of the coaching staff here. And in scrims, it seems like things are developing very nicely. I was hearing a lot of good things, and especially a lot of good things in terms with a lot of the worries that we had coming into this week, especially with the things of people not necessarily feeling that they have the individual inhibition to really go for plays. But I feel like, especially this week, and especially from Duke Nukem, I feel like we're seeing that a lot more. A lot of the tank being the leading charge, it didn't feel like he was sort of being pushed along the line. It
Hmm.
felt like he was really setting the tempo, setting the line, going ahead and going and really proving that he is the front line of this team, that he is the reason that they are going to be able to get onto that point, be able to contest, and be able to really push forward.
Ironically, I think of it like I'm going to say Captain America, but not from Marvel Rivals, not because I don't want to think about the game, but because I haven't played it yet. But I just imagine like from Duke Nukem, like last time it would just be like, okay, I'm going to go with the team, but this time it's like, okay, I'm going to take the lead, just
Yeah.
like how you would expect out of like a Captain America figure of like, okay, I have the shield, I am going to lead us to the point.
Hmm.
And like that was very much like what we saw, and it led to a lot of opportunities. And once again, it was just one support off or like just one pick off from like getting the point and capping it,
Hmm.
and like it's right there.
Yep. I would also especially argue and especially some of the more pace that comes with this team, is really coming down to a lot of the character swaps that we're seeing across the board. Spooky Ripley getting on that Sojourn is giving them a little bit more range that they can play with, but it's also giving Ripley consistent, like kind of across the board, where they're not locked to that close range. They're able to play consistent damage all the way out. And especially for Duke Nukem, the Hazard, I feel like really helped implement the thing that you're talking about of being able to lead the charge. Having a character that isn't like a Reinhardt where you're kind of tied down to a shield, or a Roadhog where you're kind of tied down to the pick and run type style. When you really are able to run like just a hard, I am going to run at you type of character, and have a person that can live on that, but also still control the pace and control the flow that's going on, it's really good to see. And we kind of saw that this week or last match, with that Hazard mirror match. Both teams are understanding kind of the benefits that this character can give, especially on a person that understands, hey, I can just outskill people. I can just run up and win. And that's going to be very interesting coming into this, because this league, GLEC, in, I believe, accordance with OWCS, as I was hearing from our director earlier today, has introduced a character bans segment where each team is allowed to ban one character prior to the round starting. And the enemy team here, San Xavier University, has elected to ban that Hazard, which I think will be very interesting to see, because I felt that both sides were getting incredibly good value out of it. So I'm curious to see how both teams are going to adapt with that Hazard being taken off the board.
Yeah, and not only is the hazard being taken off, but they also banned Widowmaker. So when
Hmm.
we go to Kings Row, not going to be a lot of people picking off from windows as you would usually see from a map like this. But since with it being banned, I was even thinking like what other character would fit that role, because it would be like Orisa is more so like playing with the team,
Hmm.
because like if your Orisa's too far away from the team, you kind of
Yeah.
don't have a team anymore. And then I was thinking like maybe even like it's not Monkey. what's his name?
Winston.
Winston. But I was thinking like even Winston could kind of play a similar role, especially with his ult of like, okay, I'm going to disrupt the back line. Oh, my team's in danger. Let me just jump all the way back over to them and help them out. Like
Yeah.
the way that Duke Nukem played Hazard very much feels like the dive concept of like I will disrupt whatever they got going on over there, and then when my team needs me, I will get back on point.
Exactly, exactly. I was gonna say, I think something like that could work. I think Winston is just a character that takes a lot of skill. He's a very strange tank as far as everything goes. He's very good, but he is an incredibly kind of odd style of tank because of exactly what you were discussing. That kind of you're able to jump in and out, but still while you're jumping in and out, you are very vulnerable. So it's a lot of resource management, it's a lot of cooldown management, and it's a lot of being present of what exactly you're trying to go for and what your team is trying to go for. As we look towards the character selections, as everything comes in, we're going to be seeing a lot more of like a comfort setup coming out here from BW. Obviously, Ripley still on that Sojourn, but we're going to be seeing Duke Nukem on that Reinhardt, the Boss Baby on the Moira, and Klebito on that Junkrat. We're also going to be seeing Plastic T over on the Juno, something that I know they've been working on a lot, but I know they have a lot more comfort on Anna. And especially with a point like this, I'm a little surprised that they didn't go with it, but I'm also just going to let them do the playing and let
Yeah,
me do the talking.
there's a reason why we're out there and here, or well, other way
Other
around.
way around, other way around. But yeah, as I say, I will say for this defense, I'm not super surprised to see this the Duke Nukem Reinhardt pick. Reinhardt, especially on this map, especially on this point, is an incredibly good character to play. He just has a lot of hold down, especially on this point, as we're starting to see right now. But it's really looking like Saint Xavier may have found something that could work going into the future.
Yeah, and that
Bastion.
something is called Bastion melting Reinhardt's shield.
Yep, he was able to get taken down very fast, and Klebito here in the backline could end up becoming a little bit of a problem, but unfortunately not able to survive for quite as long as he might have liked. However, that's the Boss Baby really trying for something, but not going to be able to find enough footing to truly get a kill, getting finished off by the Pharah. And now it's looking like BW looking for a full regroup, looking for a full 5-5, potentially going to be able to pull some sort of recontest off as that last tick starts to go down. Instead, BW will elect to stay back, and then they're going to look for holding them at this choke point, which again, another very good choke point that Reinhardt plays incredibly well around.
I was going to say, yeah, like this corner, like especially with Reinhardt, oh, you keep shooting, there's a Sojourn with full railgun. And
Hmm.
then there's on the other side, like you said, like the Reinhardt just doing really well holding that point as now the Pharah is down and once again the shield is melted, but the Reinhardt, well, Duke Nukem was still alive and
Hmm.
the Reinhardt was able to take two, now that's three more, now leaving it only to Klobito, which is a bit of a problem at the moment, but Klebito still staying alive with more than 50 health, and the team um, just electing to ignore him while BW is trying to regroup.
Yep. As I say, he's locked in this room and he's really trying to just stay alive because all the time that he's wasting that Saint Xavier is focusing on him is less time that they're focusing on the rest of the team, whether it be the Rhine or the supports or whatnot. But he will get picked out, and that Bastion ult is going to be forcing a rift in the team. Duke Nukem is going to be able to fall back and get support from the rest of his cohorts, but unfortunately, Spooky Ripley dropping down in pretty fast succession. Duke Nukem dropping as well. And now it's down to the supports left alive as they try to stay alive as the rest of St. Xavier really looks for these kills.
And then unfortunately that was a really good window position, but the way that BW backed off, the window was kind of deemed useless at that point. But but the other way around is that it gave Saint Xavier a lot of room to work with. With this ult from the Boss Baby, able to heal him, able to heal up Duke Nukem, and they're holding this point really well with that Juno ult.
Yep. Juno ult coming out is going to be able to continue to keep them alive, and they're actually able to push this back, hold a little bit of space. Spooky Ripley, unfortunately, I think falling off the side of the map happens to the best of us. And now the team is going to have to play around being a little bit down. Klebito is going to get picked out by that Bastion, and now it's tank and double support holding on. This could still do a lot of damage. Fire Strike is going to be able to take out the Immortality field, but this battle for the point is going to be very back and forth. And with that Bastion, Duke Nukem is going to be dropping. And now it's down to the rest of the team seeing what they exactly they can get and what they can really look to take from the movement of Saint Xavier.
I think that was really smart by saying, or just this round overall specifically, was really smart overall by Saint Xavier because they knew that they were going to get rid of the hazard, so they were getting rid of their own hazard. But then it was like, okay, well, what's a good person for this map? Reinhardt. Okay, and then it just seemed like the rest of the team just specifically countered Reinhardt. Like Bastion, Reinhardt going onto Bastion's shield as somebody who's usually playing Bastion. Um, it's usually fun for the Bastion player more than it is for the Rein player.
Yeah. This
And
is yeah.
yeah, and then just like all the other, I forgot the characters because I have the memory of a goldfish right now, but just like all the other ways that they were able to just counter around specifically Reinhardt, just like getting rid of the tank and then just taking everyone else out, especially the Pharah, having the high ground, and it looks like they're going like with this defense they're going to go on more of a I don't want to say annoying, so I'll say disturbing or disrupting approach of okay, there's going to be ball to just make sure that there's somebody always on point. Farah is going to always be able to contest the point because she's in the air. Um, just stuff like that, especially what I call CVS Farah Mercy, because they're just going to be in their own little world healing each other.
Yep. As I say, and the picks and the comp loadout here for BW is going a little bit unorthodox, but it will be working out incredibly well. Spooky Ripley getting that first pick onto the Pharah, forcing more of Saint Xavier's back, and this could potentially be a very early contest onto point. Duke Nukem leading the way on the Ramatra, but with the Pharah down, the rest of Saint Xavier is
I
going to
don't think the
elect
Farah
to
did
fall
go
back.
down.
Uh, Literally at the start of the game, she went down,
Oh,
like off rip. The pick on the Hanzo is going to be negated because of the far or because of the Mercy res, but the rest of this BW is just holding the point down well. It's obviously that contest from the ball that we were talking about being so pesky, kind of just being able to exist in the backline, and you see that pharmacy combo really coming out, really able to get a little bit of value in the back line, but Clubido able to take out both of them and force most of St. Xavier's players onto that retreat. Duke Nukem able to push up and
and
try to
also
apply some of that pressure.
Also, just like that, that's a really early cap for BW.
Hmm.
Like, I don't want to keep comparing it to last week, so I will stop after this one. But compared to last week, like
Yeah,
it was really hard to get this far,
yeah.
and now they're just pushing the payload as much as they want. I mean, as much as they please. Right now, they have some resistance, but it's significantly less than it was last time.
Yep. And when we talk about maps and when we talk about practice, one of the big things that we talk about is scrims, just reps on individual maps, whatever it may be. And there's a reason that people call this map Scrims Row. It is everybody loves it, and it just gets played a ton. So I'm assuming that success is definitely in due part to having that scrims, having the ability to actually play those maps. Fortunately, that Riptire from Clovido is going to be getting taken out right before it could pop. But 425 left on the timer and almost having it at that first capture point is massive. Unfortunately, the Pharah going to be doing exactly what the Pharah does best, and that is be annoying from the sky and be able to be a nuisance to everyone else in the server. Uh, in conjunction with the ball and the Hanzo, it's just going to be essentially a team weight here coming out from SXU onto BW. And now BW is going to have to move together and figure out how they want to play this next set. They obviously have a lot of space on this payload, but they need to figure out how they want to dislodge the Pharah, how they want to dislodge the Mercy, and how they want to deal with the rest of that team, especially that ball, who they've just been really, it seems, unable to kill as he just kind of dances around the rest of the stage.
Yeah, it's definitely been a ball.
Hmm.
Like he's play like they're playing it correctly. They're playing it the way that they're supposed to, and that's to be a disruptor, be a distraction, and ball is a distraction that could also kill you sometimes. So it's just like, oh boy, now I have to actually pay attention to this.
Yeah. And say this push up from BW though, they're able to get a lot of space and they've found that Farah not quite enough to kill, but they've gotten a lot and we're able to get a lot of alts coming out from St. Xavier. That's three alts getting used at once for BW, literally investing nothing. And with 3 minutes left and three alts in the pocket and a fourth not that far away, that's a really good trade for the side of BW. Unfortunately, Kibito getting picked, so if they want to have their full roster, they're going to have to wait a little bit. They're going to have to spend some time
Yeah,
watching that
I was going to
respawn.
say you would definitely take that, but first you got to get out of spawn.
Exactly.
And once again, like this Farah and this ball has really been just trapping them right where they are. And as I say, that area is denied, and that is going to be Plastic T going down and Duke Nukem.
hmm Yeah, that's the thing that we may have feared coming out here for Saint Xavier as we get onto this payload. It's or onto the hybrid map. It's really about for your defense how well you're able to take that open space, how well you're able to contest the areas that are not currently being controlled by one side or the other.
Ball jump scare.
Ball jump scare. And St. Xavier, as they've shown through that control map, can do that incredibly well. BW here, though, are going to be able to run a little bit of a side route, try and get some sort of pressure as Duke Nukem is able to get the trade. That Mercy able to get picked, but unfortunately able to get the res onto the Hanzo. But we've got almost a full flip of the sides. Libido here, the Riptire, looking to get some sort of value. Unfortunately,
That
will not.
Riptire was chasing.
It was going, but three alts popped from BW might be enough to take this. Obviously, the ball here back on point is going to prove to be a big issue, but having coalescence and suffering as Duke Nukem pops it, it's a massive contest tool because it constantly drains from the opponents that are in the area, and it just allows you to do so much damage. It's going to force an alt out of the side of St. Xavier. It's going to force out that alt from the Pharah. But unfortunately, the combination of the Pharah pressure and the Sojourn pressure is going to put BW onto essentially a last fight situation. And they need to get this first control point if they wish to continue this match.
Yeah, this one is where you lay everything on the line. This one is where you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, where you do not want that to happen. Clabito is going to be on that respawn timer. Might be able to get back into the fray, but it's going to be incredibly tight. And unfortunately, another pick onto Plastic T is going to leave them almost completely out of the engagement, along with Spooky Ripley. It's just down to Duke Nukem and DeBoss Baby, stuck in this diner, getting full contested by what feels like the entire team and then some, but they're still able to stay alive. They're still able to keep pace. And now with the touch on the point, it is going to come down to an overtime situation, potentially, meaning that the rest of the team is able to get in here as we see Plastic T now close up onto the point along with Duke Nukem as he's a little isolated. That Sojourn ult could potentially be devastating here. Duke Nukem staying alive, trying to dance and dodge around the cart, unable to do so. And Clabito, now the last line will get picked, and that will be a map 2 for St. Xavier here in this matchup.
Man, which was just so crucial because like there was just so much project progress. They looked like that they had the momentum once again, and then just like honestly, that last point summed it up of just Timbo be of just Timbo with this all being able to, well, not this one specifically, but Timbo being able to take out a lot of the momentum because on that last fight they had the push, they had everything for that, and then it was just okay. This ends now. Railgun, railgun, railgun. Oops, three are dead. Um,
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah, and it was just like that really turned the tides just as
hmm
quickly, and that move had to be nerfed. So imagine that pre-patch.
Yeah. But I was gonna say, that's what we've been discussing this entire time. It's that individual playmaking that we're seeing not necessarily lacking from BW because we're seeing a lot of these individual plays like attempted and actually showing very good um like starts, but the unfortunate case of it is just we're not seeing them quite followed out. The Ramatra ult coming out from Duke Nukem towards the end of that point, towards around the I believe 2 minutes remaining mark, it was very good. It forced a lot of them back. Again, he had the entire line that wasn't the tank behind the capture point. The unfortunate case of that was just he did not have anyone from his team able to really pull out the win against the ball and be able to push the point on. And also, while they were on that contest, Farah was able to gather her ult and rip that, and it unfortunately was enough damage to overpower whatever healing that the Ramatra may have had pumping through him and get that. We saw a lot of attempts at really good rip tires from Kilbedo, but for one reason or another, they just weren't quite able to pull it together. For one try or another, it just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, and once again, it's just like those small, those small minuscule differences are, I mean, those small minuscule, not even miscues, but like just barely off or just barely like, I guess they're called miscues. And it's like that's the difference between this being an 0-2 and this right now being like a 1-1 or a 2-0.
I was to say a 1-1, you could even be looking at a 2-0 if you want to go back as far as the control. But one of the things that we talked about last week, and I'll talk about again this week, is that I can tell that they're heating up. Like, we're seeing a lot more of that team play that we were discussing. We're seeing a lot more of the individual playmaking come out, especially in that last map. We saw a lot of that actually happening. We saw a ton of individual picks coming out from Clabido, coming out from Spooky Ripley, coming out from even the likes of Plastic Team to Boss Baby. And we saw a lot of that survivability across the board. Obviously, Duke Nukem is going to have that being the tip of the spear, but we saw the rest of that line also be able to hold that up their end of the bargain, be able to really take that space and be able to really contest and put themselves up to SXU level and say, listen, this isn't just going to be a rollover. We are going to be able to kind of rally back.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I've learned from watching BW esports play,
Esports.
right when our backs are against the wall is when we start doing great. We saw that with Smash earlier today. We saw that with honestly Valorant and LAN. Just like
Yeah,
there's just a yeah,
funnily enough, against Saint Xavier, we pulled something devious.
yeah, but
Um,
but once again,
yeah.
just like it's just always like when the adversity is at its absolute highest, when it's like okay, this is all or nothing. That's when BW plays its best, and its best last time was unfortunately not good enough for a round win, but on this map Dorado, especially with BW heating up, and once again team at full strength, and these games have been significantly closer.
hmm
This one might be the one where they are able to pull away and at least take one, and then once you take one,
Who knows?
who knows?
Once you get that energy in your system, once you get that first map win, it's really anybody's game. Because then you really start to feel like that not only is it just you saying you can do this, you're telling yourself you can do this,
But there's
you
a
actually
result.
start doing it. It's crazy. Coming out here talking about character bans because it is one of the big things that shapes this map. Hazard is now back on the field, but we're going to be seeing Sojourn and Diva getting taken off. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly that kind of affects that play because again, both players kind of have those people who were leaning more towards that Soj last map with Spooky Ripley and Timbo. So it's going to be interesting to see how each team elects to mutate their DPS line in order to um, you know confined with that lineup that we have. And what we're going to be seeing here coming out from BW is almost a complete comfort lineup. Spooky Ripley back on the Reaper, Plastic T on that Anna, Duke Nukem over on the Reinhardt, Boss Baby on that Moira, and Clabido here on the Junkrat. So a lot of comfort coming out here. It'll be interesting to see how this works going into this line.
Quick 3K going on with the pinatas.
Yeah, 100%. When we look over to the side of St. Xavier, big problem points are going to be the Pharah, I think, and also probably that Widowmaker. It's characters that, not that we don't have any practice with or any practice against, but they're characters that can very easily take over a map, especially a Pharah with a Mercy Pocket that could provide critical. And also, talking about that Widowmaker, DeBoss Baby getting picked early by the Widow, getting taken out, sent back to the spawn room. So he'll have a long rotate back in as we see a swap up going over for the Juno. And as I say that, uh, Spooky Ripley also getting taken out by that Widowmaker. So this game is going to be a lot more about playing those sight lines and playing the confirmed uh, spaces where you know you're safe compared to playing just open. As we see more of BW falling, Plastic T, Duke Nukem, and Clabido are all drop, and it's going to be a BW full regroup here as they give SXU that first point and look to contest on this second.
Yeah, which so far has been a bit of a has been a bit of a problem of just giving up that first point quicker than usual or quicker than you want it. Obviously, you don't want to give up any point, but
Mhm.
it's always that first point of like, okay, this line is usually one that we could hold pretty well, and then everything else happened.
Yep. And I like this idea from Duke Nukem here, jumping out onto point and kind of bringing the rest of the team with him. This is something that maybe was lacking in his play, but unfortunately, it's just not going to pan out. The pick from the Widow, the pick from the Farah, and the pick from the Winston is going to seal the deal. And Widowmaker able to get another. And this is going to force BW into a full regroup here, playing late on this second point for some sort of control, some sort of contest.
Yeah, and I think one thing that that you've pointed out that's really been ringing true has been like Timbo specifically, just like this Widowmaker, those sightline. Well, that one wasn't from the Widowmaker, but the point still stands.
Hmm.
Like those sightlines have really not been favoring BW, and especially against a character like Widowmaker, you need to stay in your lines, or else she's going to play a point and click adventure, and then half your team's heads are rolling on the floor.
Yep. And we've been seeing that a lot happen, especially with this second and this third point. These are really big Widow playgrounds. That second point, especially, and the third point to a certain extent still. And we're still seeing Timbo getting that value as we see little bits and pieces of BWs just slightly overstepping the line. And then once they overstep the line, the Farah able to come in and is able to clean up the rest. Duke Nukem trying to put up some sort of fight, but will get picked, as will the Boss Baby. And if we're looking for a full regroup, we're looking at a last point situation. We'll say the Nano and the Shatter now coming online for the side of BW, and the Juno alt is going to be up pretty soon. A swap over to the Soldier, maybe to give a little bit of that range, able to contest Timbo, not let him just sit on his perch as far back. But it is still going to be up in the air. Unfortunately, the Pharah alt coming out will pick two, and the Winston will pick the third as Duke Nukem and DeBoss Baby look to see if they can still contest something. DeBoss Baby playing in the back line, 1v1ing the Ana, but has to drop back to try to save Duke Nukem, but it will be too little, too late. The rest of BW here now in this scrap, looking to see if they can find something, but Spooky Ripley getting picked by the Farah. The Anti-Nade coming out, but Clabido getting picked as well. And that's going to be round one, a 3-0, dare I say, stomping from St. Xavier.
Yeah, I would say I don't know what would be the gorilla equivalent to a stomping. I'd say thrashing, but yeah, just not the best going on.
Not great scenes here. Not great
Yeah,
scenes.
the mixture of hearing stilettos in the corner and getting your head popped off to then a ape talking about eating peanut butter with a zap cannon was not the greatest combination that BW was going up against right now.
Nope.
But yeah, but now on attack, they could hopefully they could take a page out of Saint Xavier's books, see what they did. And they've also had two rounds prior of okay, what were they do or how they play, and then how do you adjust? How are you if you see like a favorable matchup in a team setting or in a 1v1 setting, how do you try to take advantage of that? You've already played against these teams twice in well 2 rounds.
Hmm.
So it's like what are some habits you see? What are some corners that they like? And I think really like this Doomfist, especially in a defense, I think he sees something in the back line that he really wants to
Hmm.
not exist anymore.
Yep. I like to think of him as a slightly more aggressive way of playing the Winston, as we will see BW bringing out Duke Nukem on the Winston pick here. Uh, he provides a lot of very aggressive positioning and potentials for your team if you want to play this fast. As you see him sitting in the corner, he's going to be able to add onto some picks that we're seeing, and now it's just left down onto DeBoss Baby as he retreats back into their spawn for a full regroup and reset. And now this is the trouble with SXU's comp and with their coverage. They're able to play around so many different corners and so many different sight lines that you don't really have a 100% safe way of getting out. You don't have a hard, this is the hole in their comp. It's sort of a, we need to find the hole and make the hole for us to really move through this wall that we're looking into.
Yeah, it's just they're really been covering all their never mind,
Mhm.
it's not that one. But they were mostly covering their bases really well, and then just like this is honestly the Duke Nukem that we saw in the first round of like, okay, we need a play, and then Duke Nukem finds a support or a DPS that's just getting a bit too comfortable, and he says, greetings, and
Yep.
then they're gone.
Is able to take those two down, and it leaves it down to the Farah, who is able to ult and is able to keep her compatriot of the Doomfist alive. The one thing that I will say, and this may be me being unfamiliar with the rule set, I'm surprised to see no hazard repicks at this point, especially with transitioning back to this more aggressive comp. I believe those hero bans do expire after one round. I could be very wrong about this, but n- I'm surprised to not be seeing it, especially with these game modes that kind of prioritize and almost necessitate more aggressive play coming out here from both of these sides.
Yeah, especially the way that the hazard did work round one. The control point has probably been your best so far, and I can't say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but could have tweaked it a bit,
Yep.
and like it was still doing well, so could have stuck with it, see what would happen.
hmm It would have been interesting to see. As we see now, an attempt at a jump up onto the height for BW, trying to contest what could be, but Doomfist just sitting there with a full charged punch ready for everyone, and unless it's going to be a full squad wipe, and another Pharah ult coming
Man,
out from the side of SXU.
that's been and like this far has also been a really big issue. Like already within like the past two fights, that's been two ults by it, which not only means well, first of all, the not first of all the economy that she's been getting of just like being able to be so efficient, get so much damage to get multiple ults at a time. I don't think you should go up there
I,
anymore.
I, I was
I
gonna
don't.
say
I,
I
I
don't think
don't.
the play up is working much more. That's unfortunate. Spooky Ripley trying to get the jump onto the back, but will get taken out by the Widowmaker. And it's all down to Clabido and Duke Nukem here. Clabido dying and Duke Nukem trying to stay in the back line, seeing if he can find something and maybe draw some attention away from the rest of the team. But he's gonna get picked down. And it's 35 seconds left here for BW. Looking like they're going to go for a full regroup and a full push, but this push is going to be essentially the last chance that they have. The Kitsune rush in pocket, along with a tack visor and two alts about to pop here for the side of BW. They really need to use something. That Nano coming out from the side of SXU is going to be unfortunate. With the Valkyrie combination, it's going to get the pick onto Clabido. The Juno ult coming out, along with the Kitsune rush, is going to be able to support the people who are still on point, but unfortunately, we're going to be seeing a lot of death coming onto the side of BW. It's down to what appears to be just Duke Nukem and Plastic T here. Not much is going to be found from Clabido, who is also alive, him getting picked out. Plastic T getting picked, and now Duke Nukem being the last, staying on point, contesting for as much as he can, just looking for some sort of opening, some sort of pick. A little bit more of BW has been able to scrawl their way back, but Boss Baby is going to be getting picked, and that is going to be no touch left. A 3-0 here from St. Xavier University in week two of this GLEC competition. And now, as per usual, talking about this event. And what I will say, much like coming out of last week, a lot of good things that I'm seeing kind of sitting within this game. Obviously, it's a 3-0, so on paper, it looks incredibly bad. But I would argue the hybrid was incredibly close. That really could have been pushed into an OT or a second round or some form of extension on that game clock. The controls, although scrappy, both controls showed very good signs. They both showed very good things that the team really wanted to get at and really wanted to go for.
Yeah,
And
precisely.
yeah, and even on that hybrid or that escort where the like attack was kind of just stomped and the defense was stalled out, there was bits and moments where I could see the idea of the game plan forming. I could see what they were trying to go for. I think maybe a little bit of stubbornness potentially could have gotten in, especially when we talk about that elevator right by the first building. But what we see is a lot of things that not only can be improved on, but show potential going forward. Again, very early season. An 0-2 record is not insurmountable,
Especially not in GLEC.
especially not in GLAC.
Like there's this team, once again, just from last week to this week, has shown a good amount of improvement. And not only that, just like yeah, yeah, it's a loss. But it's like I personally, I'm not. Oh, this is all sunshine and rainbows. But I'm like, I'm content. I'm happy to see that there is improvement.
Hmm.
There was it's significantly better than week one, and that's just from hey, we got a singular VOD and we got a different player.
Hmm.
So now they get to sit on this one where they have their full team lineup.
Hmm.
And yes, it wasn't the result that you wanted, but there were steps in the right direction. And it could also see like the game plans that work best with BW. This team so far, from what I see, you work best when Duke Nukem is allowed to just fight
Do
everyone
it.
that's not the tank.
Yep.
And then it's like at that point, everyone else needs to then beat the other tank.
Hmm.
So then like maybe that might even be a character switch up between not only Duke Nukem but from the other players of like okay, let's have only tank busters, and then once we get rid of the tank, we just meet with Duke Nukem, who's probably like doing pretty well against the rest of the team by himself.
Obviously, a lot of things can be set up within this format. A lot of things can be set up within this team. And for a second week, still showing the start of a very good identity, showing the start of like a kind of let it hang style of gameplay. Just a go for it. We know we are better. We know we can win. It seems to be the beginning of that. It still needs obviously work, but everything needs work. And as we saw with Smash earlier today,
A lot
things
needs work.
can be cleaned up. They need to be cleaned up. It's going to take time. And time we have aplenty. Next week, we're going to have another round of our usual GLEC matches. And I don't believe it'll be starting this week. I believe it will be starting the week after. We're going to be starting up our NACE regular season. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of me and this guy.
You sure
A
will.
lot more of me and this guy.
So if you like that, then make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe because we are now also Twitch affiliated. So shameless plug.
Yippee!
Um,
We
and
can get money.
and also on YouTube, please subscribe. We need it. Um, on Facebook, we love you.
Follow, I
Um,
guess. Yeah. We love you.
but yeah, other than that, just continue to watch this season because this season's just only started and there's going to be a lot more coming out. So there's going to be a lot that you're not going to want to miss.
Yep. As a season's just getting rolling. We still got a lot to show. We still got a lot of games to play. And listen, we got some championships to win. We got some lands to qualify to.
It's always winnable.
It always is. Uh, that'll be all from us today. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week.